After my ex left, I ran into her at the wedding of a friend. What went down? Hey Reddit, throwaway account for obvious reasons. I need to vent, and, honestly, I could use some perspective. This past weekend was a whirlwind, and I'm still reeling from what happened. Here's my story. 6 months ago, my world kind of collapsed. My ex, Emily, and I had been together for almost 3 years. We met through mutual friends, survived the pandemic together, even talked about moving in. Then out of nowhere, she called it quits. We're different people now, she said, standing in my doorway with her arms wrapped around herself, eyes red but voice steady. I remember thinking, how can two people grow in opposite directions when you do everything together? It hurt more than I thought anything could. At first, I tried to keep busy, gym, extra hours at work, new hobbies, failed sourdough starter. But some nights I'd just lie in bed, replaying our fights and the good times, wondering which memories meant more. Friends were supportive, but after a while, the invitations faded. People chose sides, or got awkward when I showed up alone. I started seeing a therapist. Eventually, things felt less sharp, like a healing bruise, still sore, but not bleeding. Fast forward to last month. My old college roommate, Jamie, messages me out of the blue. You're coming to my wedding, right? Wouldn't be the same without you. I promised I'd be there. Only later, scrolling through the guest list in the Facebook group, did I spot her name. Emily Harper, +1. That's when the anxiety crept in. Old wounds started itching. What if she brought someone? Would she look different? Would I? My heart wasn't ready, but curiosity kept poking at me. I wondered, was this fate's weird way of giving me closure? Or just a new way to hurt? The days leading up to the wedding were torture. I cycled through every emotion: dread, anger, curiosity, hope. I even considered backing out, twice. But Jamie was more than a friend. He was family. And honestly, a small part of me wanted to prove something to myself. That I'd moved on. That I was better, or at least stronger. I spent way too long picking out what to wear. The suit I bought was a little sharper than what I'd usually go for, but maybe that was the point. New beginnings, I told myself in the mirror, forcing a half smile. My best friend Mark texted the night before. You ready to see her? I sent back a shrug emoji, but really, I had no idea. On the drive to the venue, I blasted music just to drown out the noise in my own head. My hands were actually shaking when I pulled up to the old country club. The place was gorgeous, white tints strung with fairy lights, the faint sound of laughter floating on the air. As I checked in, the woman at the table smiled and pinned a boutonniere to my lapel. You're in table 5, right next to the dance floor, she said. Great, I thought, front row for the emotional roller coaster. The ceremony was beautiful. I tried to focus on Jamie and his bride, Claire, but every time a new group walked in, my eyes darted to the doors. Was that her? No. Was that her? My heart jumped every time I thought I saw her. When Emily finally arrived, 20 minutes late, classic. She glided in wearing a deep green dress I'd never seen before, hair swept up, looking both exactly the same and like a stranger. She laughed at something her +1 said, tall, clean-cut, looked like he belonged in AJ Crew catalog. I felt something twist in my stomach. Was it jealousy? Nerves? I didn't know, but I couldn't look away. The ceremony ended and guests spilled into the garden for cocktails. I tried to make small talk with old friends. Some were genuinely happy to see me. Others did that awkward, "How are you really?" thing. Every few minutes, my eyes wandered, searching for Emily. She seemed to float through the crowd, always just out of reach, always surrounded by people. I tried not to stare, but I was hyper-aware of her presence. Every laugh, every gesture was familiar and foreign all at once. At one point, I caught her looking my way, and for a split second, our eyes met. She quickly looked away, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear, something she always did when she was nervous. Mark appeared at my side with a whiskey in each hand. Liquid courage, he grinned, shoving one toward me. She looks good, man, but so do you. Don't let this mess you up. I gave him a weak smile. I'm fine, I lied. Eventually, I found myself standing alone near the bar, watching the sun sink behind the trees. That's when I heard her voice, soft, uncertain. Hey. I turned. There she was, closer than I'd been prepared for. Up close, she seemed both familiar and strange. Older, maybe, or just sadder. Hi. I managed, my throat suddenly dry. Hey, she repeated, forcing a smile. It's been a while. Yeah, you look good. Stupid. Why did I say that? So do you, she said, eyes darting to the ground. The silence between us stretched. I wanted to fill it with apologies, accusations, anything, but all I managed was, how have you been? She shrugged, looking out over the crowd. Busy. Work's crazy. Life's, you know. Her date came over, draping an arm around her shoulder. Babe, want another drink? He asked. She nodded, then turned to me. I'll see you inside. I nodded, heart pounding. It was brief, awkward, unfinished, like a door half opened, but not enough to see what's inside. Dinner was a blur. Table 5 was a mix of familiar faces, Jamie's cousins, Claire's old college friends, Mark cracking jokes on my left. Across the room, I could see Emily and her date seated 2 tables over, laughing with people I vaguely recognized from old double dates. Every so often, I'd catch her glancing my way, and then she'd quickly look down at her plate or pretend to listen to someone else. It was like a weird, silent game of hide and seek. The conversations at my table drifted from job changes to who was still single to wild college stories. Every once in a while, someone would bring up that trip to Montreal or Emily's famous apple pie, and the table would shift, some people glancing at me, some at her. It was like we were both haunted by each other's absence and presence at once. After the main course, Jamie made his way around the tables, hugging everyone. When he got to me, he held on a little longer. Glad you came, man, he said quietly. Means a lot. He moved on before I could say anything back. I started to relax a bit, enjoying the rhythm of old friendships. But then, out of nowhere, Claire's little sister, half drunk on champagne, leaned over and said, not quietly, So, have you 2 talked yet? You and Emily, I mean. The table fell silent. I could feel my cheeks burning. Mark jumped in. We're here for the wedding, Jess. Let's not do the reunion episode tonight. A few people chuckled nervously. I managed a tight smile, but my heart was racing. Across the room, Emily's date leaned in close to her, whispering something that made her frown. She stood up suddenly, mumbling an excuse, and walked out toward the garden. Without thinking, I stood up too, muttering, "Be right back." Nobody stopped me. In the soft light of the garden, I found her standing by the fountain, staring at her reflection. I hesitated, then walked over. You okay? She turned, surprised, eyes shining in the lamplight. Can we talk? Just us? We stood by the fountain, just outside the glow of the reception. The muffled sounds of music and laughter drifted through the night air. Emily took a deep breath, arms wrapped around herself like she was bracing for a storm. For a minute, neither of us said anything. It was the first real quiet we'd shared in over half a year. I didn't think it'd feel this weird, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, me either. I glanced at her, searching for something familiar. You seem different. Not in a bad way. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. So do you. Guess that's what happens. The awkwardness felt heavy, but it also gave way to honesty. Maybe the distance helped, like we could finally talk as 2 people who'd lived through something, not just exes caught in old patterns. I should have called you, she said suddenly, voice cracking. I left things so messy. I thought I was doing the right thing, giving you space. But then the space just got bigger. I shook my head, a mix of anger and relief bubbling up. I needed space, yeah? But closure would have been nice. You just disappeared, Em. One day you were there, and then, nothing. She winced, swallowing hard. I know. I kept telling myself it was for the best, but honestly, I was scared. Of hurting you more. Of what it would say about me if I just admitted. I didn't know who I was anymore. That hit me. Because deep down, I'd felt the same. I get it. I wasn't perfect either. I kept waiting for you to come back, or for things to just fix themselves. But they didn't. A breeze rustled the trees above us. Emily looked up at the sky, blinking back tears. Do you ever wish things had been different? Yeah, I admitted. But wishing doesn't change much. She nodded, wiping her eyes. The vulnerability between us was raw, real. For the first time since the breakup, I felt a strange sense of peace. Like maybe we could both let go, even if just a little. Suddenly, footsteps crunched on the gravel behind us. Her date, Ryan, I remembered now, walked up, stiff and tense. Everything okay here? Emily glanced at me, then back at him. We're just talking. He shot me a look, not hostile, but definitely guarded. They're doing the first dance soon. Emily nodded. We'll be right in. He lingered, then finally turned and left. She sighed. I should get back. Yeah, me too. We started to walk back, side by side, but not touching. For a moment, it felt like old times, and then it didn't. Back inside, the first dance was already underway. Jamie and Claire floated across the floor, the whole room watching, candles flickering, everything soft and golden. For a moment, I let myself get lost in it. The beauty of the moment, the possibility of new beginnings. But even in the dim light, I could sense tension buzzing beneath the surface. Mine, Emily's, maybe even Ryan's, who shot me a glance as he led Emily to their table. Mark found me by the bar, eyes flicking between me and Emily. You good? He asked, handing me a drink. Or are you about to make a dramatic wedding toast? I laughed, a real one this time. Not tonight. Promise. But inside, I felt the pressure building, like something was unresolved, waiting to spill out. The DJ switched to an upbeat track and the dance floor flooded with guests. I tried to lose myself in the crowd, but my attention kept drifting back to Emily. She was dancing with Ryan, but they looked out of sync, her smile a little too tight, his grip a little too firm. At one point, she excused herself and disappeared onto the terrace. Without thinking, I followed. Outside, she was leaning against the railing, the night air cool and crisp. She jumped when she saw me. Sorry, I said. Didn't mean to sneak up. She shook her head. No, it's fine. Just needed a breather. Ryan's nice, but he doesn't really get it. This whole thing. Seeing you, being back here, it's complicated. I nodded, stepping closer. Yeah, it is. She hesitated, then looked me in the eye. Can I ask you something? Are you seeing anyone? The question caught me off guard. No, not really. I've gone on a few dates, but nothing serious. You. She glanced inside, where Ryan was laughing with a group of guys. We've only been dating a few months. He's sweet, but I don't know. He doesn't know me like you did. Something in her voice cracked, and suddenly the air between us felt thick with all the things left unsaid. I wanted to reach for her, to tell her how much I missed her, but I held back. Instead, I said, sometimes, knowing someone isn't enough to make things work, but it still matters. She looked at me for a long time, then nodded. Yeah, it really does. We stood there in silence, the noise of the wedding fading behind us. For a second, it felt like the world had narrowed to just the two of us, and all the possibilities hanging in the air. Our moment was interrupted by a sudden burst of laughter and footsteps. Mark and Jess, tipsy and glowing, tumbled onto the terrace. They froze when they saw us, exchanging quick glances that said more than words. Jess gave a mischievous smile. Sorry to interrupt. Are we intruding on a moment? Emily blushed, and I felt my own cheeks warm. Mark winked at me, pulling Jess aside, but not before whispering, You two need to talk, really talk. Jess nodded knowingly, glancing between Emily and me before she followed Mark back inside, leaving us alone again. Emily let out a nervous laugh. We're the talk of the wedding, aren't we? I shrugged, trying to keep it light. Guess some things never change. She looked down at her hands. I hate being the center of attention, especially like this. Me too, but maybe it's a sign. Maybe we need to get some things out in the open. She bit her lip, then said, Ryan thinks there's something still between us. He's not wrong, but I don't even know what to do with it. I'm tired of pretending. The honesty hit hard. I could feel my chest tighten, emotions I thought I'd buried bubbling up again. Emily, I'm not over you. I tried to be, but seeing you, it just brought everything back. She looked up at me, eyes shining. I still think about you. About us. I wonder all the time if we made a mistake. There it was. Raw, exposed, impossible to ignore. Just then, the door banged open. Ryan stood there, face tense, voice tight. Can I talk to you, Em? She hesitated, glancing at me. It's okay, I said quietly, though it felt like my insides were twisting. Emily followed Ryan to the far side of the terrace. I could see them talking in hushed tones, Ryan's gestures sharp, Emily's face troubled. Their voices were too low to hear, but the emotion was obvious. Hurt, confusion, maybe even jealousy. I turned away, suddenly feeling like I was intruding on something private. I stared up at the sky, trying to steady my breathing, trying to remind myself that some chapters end for a reason, even if you never really get the closure you want. Inside, the music swelled. Jamie called for everyone to come join a group photo. As I headed in, I caught a last glimpse of Emily, wiping her eyes as Ryan stormed back into the reception alone. Inside, the wedding was in full swing. People were dancing, glasses clinking, old friends huddled in corners reminiscing about college days. But there was a tension in the air, like everyone was aware of the drama bubbling just beneath the surface. I stood with the group for the photo, forcing a smile as Jamie slung his arm around me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Emily slip back in, her face composed but her eyes still red. Ryan hovered near the exit, jaw clenched, pointedly not looking at either of us. When the photos were done, I tried to lose myself in the crowd. Mark found me by the dessert table. "You okay, man? Look like World War III out there." I shrugged. "It's just a lot. Didn't expect to feel anything, honestly. But it's like every conversation, every memory, just came rushing back." He nodded, serious for once. "Sometimes you don't get closure. Sometimes you just have to make it." As if on cue, Emily appeared at my side, her expression determined. "Can we talk? Really talk?" I hesitated, glancing around. Jamie and Claire were slow dancing, most guests deep in their own worlds. Ryan was gone, maybe outside cooling off. Emily led me out onto the dark lawn behind the reception tent. The air was cool, quiet except for the faint hum of music and laughter from inside. She stopped, turning to face me. "I told Ryan the truth," she said, voice trembling but steady. "I told him I still have feelings for you. I couldn't keep lying to him. Or myself." My heart pounded. "What did he say?" "He's hurt." I heard him. But it's worse pretending there's nothing here. For a long moment, we just stood there. The moonlight cast her face in silver, her eyes searching mine for something. Answers, hope, maybe forgiveness. "I don't know what happens now," she whispered. But I had to be honest. I swallowed hard, the weight of her words sinking in. "I'm glad you were. I needed to hear it, even if it's messy." She smiled, a sad, hopeful thing. "It always was, wasn't it? Messy." We both laughed, and in that moment, it felt like the heaviness between us finally cracked, letting in a little light. We lingered on the lawn, letting the silence settle around us. For the first time all night, it didn't feel awkward, it felt necessary. Like we'd finally put down all the armor we'd been carrying. Inside, the DJ called everyone back for the last slow dance. Jamie's voice echoed from the speakers, half drunk, half sentimental. "If you love someone tonight, drag them out here for one last spin." Emily looked at me, searching my face for a sign. I hesitated, my mind racing with everything that had happened. Her confession, Ryan's anger, the old wounds now bleeding into something new. But in that moment, I realized I didn't want to keep running from the past. "Dance with me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded. We walked inside, crossing the dance floor as the lights dimmed and the music softened. Jamie and Claire grinned as we passed. Mark raised an eyebrow, but just gave me a subtle thumbs up. Emily and I found each other's hands, awkward at first, but then we settled into a rhythm. I could feel her heartbeat, fast, nervous, real. All around us, people swayed in their own worlds. But for me, everything narrowed down to the warmth of her in my arms, the way she laid her head on my shoulder like she used to. We didn't talk. There weren't words for everything left between us. Regrets, questions, hope. For now, the music filled the gaps. When the song ended, we stepped apart, still holding on for a second longer than we needed to. I searched her eyes for answers, but found only honesty and vulnerability. "I don't know what happens after tonight," I admitted quietly. She squeezed my hand. "Neither do I, but I want to find out." We stood there as the lights came up and the crowd thinned, clinging to a sense of possibility that felt fragile and exhilarating. For the first time in a long while, the future didn't feel scary. It felt open. After the music faded and guests drifted away, Emily and I stepped outside under the stars. There was a new comfort between us, a peace after all the words and tears. "I'm sorry for how I ended things," she said quietly. "You deserved better." I shook my head. We both made mistakes. Maybe we needed time apart to figure out who we are. She smiled, a little sad, a little hopeful. "I missed you, even when I tried not to." At our cars, Parked side by side, she reached for my hand. Whatever happens next, let's just be honest. No more hiding. Agreed, I said, finally feeling lighter. We don't have to solve everything tonight. Maybe we just start here, she replied. Standing there, I didn't know if we'd get back together or just rebuild as friends. But I was grateful for this messy, unexpected reunion and the chance to finally say what mattered. My advice: if you ever see your ex again, don't run from your feelings. Face what hurts, be honest, and let yourself heal, even if it's messy. Sometimes closure is the start of something new.